Desolation Island by Patrick O'Brien. Read by Robert Hardy. The breakfast parlour was the most cheerful room in Ashgrove Cottage, and although the walls of the new wing in which this parlour stood still smelt of plaster, the sun poured in, blazing on the covered silver dishes and lighting the face of Sophie Aubrey as she sat there waiting for her husband. A lovely face, with the lines that their earlier poverty had marked upon it quite smoothed away, but it had a somewhat anxious look. She was a sailor's wife, and although the Admiralty had allowed her the company of her husband for a surprising length of time, this period was coming to an end. Anxiety changed to pleasure as she heard his step. The door opened, a ray of sun fell on Captain Aubrey's beaming face, a ruddy face with bright blue eyes. "There you are, sweetheart," he cried, kissing her. "Captain Aubrey," she said, "I am afraid your bacon will be cold." "A cup of coffee first," said he, "and then all the bacon in the world. Lord, Sophie," lifting the covers with his free hand, "here's fiddler's green, eggs, bacon, chops, kippered herrings, kidneys, soft tack. How is your mamma?" "A little headache, but she ate a couple of eggs and will come down with the children. She's quite excited about seeing the doctors." "What can be keeping Bondon?" said Jack, glancing at the stern regulator, his astronomical clock. Perhaps he fell off again. Bondon was Aubrey's coxswain, and whenever it could be managed, he and Killick, Jack's steward, moved with him from one command to the next. Neither was a great hand with a horse. Yet the mail addressed to the commanding officer of the Sea Fencibles had to be fetched by a mounted man, and daily the two traversed the downs on a powerful, thick-set cob, conveniently low to the ground. A powerful, thick-set woman, Mrs. Williams, Captain Aubrey's mother-in-law, walked in, followed by a nurse with the baby, and a one-legged seaman shepherding the two little girls. Most of the servants were sailors, partly because of the extreme difficulty of inducing maids to stay within reach of Mrs. Williams' tongue. Upon seamen, however, long inured to the admonition of the boatswain, its lash fell unregarded. And in any case its virulence was much diminished, since they were men, and since they kept the place as trim as a royal yacht. "Good morning to you, ma'am," said Jack, rising. "I trust I see you well." "Good morning, Commodore, that is to say, Captain. You know, I never complain, but I have a list here that will make the doctors stare. We are not to be talking about me, however. Here is your son, Commodore, that is to say, Captain. He has cut his first tooth." Jack gazed into the little pink, jolly, surprisingly human face among all the wool. George smiled at him, chuckled, and displayed his tooth. Jack thrust his forefinger into the wrapping and said, "How are you coming along, eh? Prime, I dare say." The baby looked startled. The nurse backed away. Mrs. Williams said, "How can you call out so loud, Mr. Aubrey?" with a reproachful look, and Sophie took the child into her arms. Jack felt a momentary pang of jealousy at the sight of women, particularly Sophie, concentrating their devotion upon the little creature, but he had barely time to be ashamed of it before Amos Dray, formerly boatswain's mate in HMS Surprise, and the most conscientious, impartial flogger in the fleet before he lost his leg, shaded his mouth with his hand and in a deep rumble whispered, "Toe the line, my dears." The little twin girls stepped forward, and together, piping high and shrill, they cried, "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Charlotte. Good morning, Fanny," said their father, bending down to kiss them. "Why, Fanny, you have a lump on your forehead." "I'm not Fanny," said Charlotte, scowling. "I'm Charlotte." "But you're wearing a blue pinafore," said Jack. "Because Fanny put on mine, and she fetched me a swipe with her slipper. The swab," said Charlotte. Jack cast an apprehensive look at Mrs. Williams and Sophie, but they were still cooing over the baby, and almost at the same moment Bondon brought in the post. The children, their grandmother, and their attendants leaving the room at this point, he begged pardon for being late. The fact of the matter was, it was market day down there. "The fact of the matter is, Killick
Sample complete. Ready to continue?